Hey everyone, this is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. Um, Thank you for joining. If you are watching this video live or if you're watching it later, I provide grant opportunities every week live. So I have a grants worksheet. I just dropped it in the comments where if you download that worksheet, it'll give you strategies for finding grants for free, but also it'll add you to my mailing list where you can get new grant opportunities every single week. So every week on Tuesdays at 9 p.m., I go through those grant opportunities. So I'm going to go right into it because I don't need to waste a lot of time. Y'all are here for the grants, y'all are here for the money. So let's get to it. After I go through the 3 grant opportunities tonight, I'm going to answer a grant question. So I've decided to start answering a grant question every single week. To add to the grant opportunities. And if you are here, let me know if you're here and where you're from, because I can't tell who you are, where you're from. I can't tell anything. I just can tell the number of people watching. So the first grant is, hey, Liz. I can always count on you. So the first grant is a running grant. It's for Saucony. I can never say this word right. I think the company is Saucony. But it is for a running grant. So if you run a program that addresses childhood obesity and you have a running program as a part of that, then this is the one for you. This grant is really simple. It basically is a brochure that they walk through like each of the pieces of the grant. It's 2 pages, so it's really easy to apply for. So if you know someone who could use it, let them know. I just put the link there in the comment section, and I'm just going to kind of run through the expectations of the grant and what they're looking for. So just a couple of things for program eligibility. The participants must be 18 years or younger, so they're looking for programs only for kids. So yeah, a lot of the grants you'll see is only for kids. The point of the programs are to increase participation in running. So you can't have an obesity program and it be the focus of just healthy eating or walking. There has to be some aspect that's focused on running and participating in running more. And then you can't apply if you're an employee or a relative of the company, which is normal for other grants. So there you have that. So just a little bit in terms of the obligations. I like this because they lay it out for you. They're saying the money has to be used for the proposed program or you have to return them. They want to see any changes to the program or to the budget. You need to let them know beforehand. You can't use the money for expenses that you paid for before the grant started. And then they have the right to any images and stuff like that. And I'm going through that. I like that because a lot of times we don't talk about what happens after the grant. We don't talk about what the expectations are. So you should prepare yourself for having some kind of reporting and something to say what happened with the money. That's good PR for you, but it's also good PR for your funder. And it's a good way to engage them, to let them know how you're using their money. So it's smart to just keep track of the things you're doing after you get the money, okay? All right, so these are the things they're looking for in the application. It's 6 main things. I'm just going to go through them really quickly. The first one is your organization's history and any major accomplishments, which include the short-term and long-term goals of your program. So you're going to see this asked a lot in grant applications when they talk about your goals. And a lot of people feel like they have to create goals for the grant for whatever reason. I see your anger face, Lynn. I know it's because it's all for kids, grants for kids. But don't get thrown off by questions about goals. And don't feel like it's only for this grant application. Just what's your goal in general for your overall program? What are you trying to accomplish? That's basically it. That's all they want to see. They want to see that there's some structure to your program, right? You've thought about like, what is the intention of the work that you're doing? Because that helps them see if they align with your philosophy or they align with how you approach your work. So don't get caught up with that. Just identify what the goals are, what you hope to accomplish by doing your program. The second thing they want is for you to describe the purpose for which you're seeking funding, and then how much you're asking for. So again, this is the Saucony grant. I dropped it in the comment section. The third thing is, who is your constituency? So detailed information about your community or the children you're serving. So this is where you're going to put data. This is where you're going to put information about if you're addressing childhood obesity, you can give statistics about like the weight issue or unhealthy eating habits in your area or whatever that applies to the kids that you're serving. You can use data from just like general population data, and you can also use data from your program in particular. Listen, you know I love children. I'm just saying, don't forget about the elders also. I know we forget about the elders. We do. A lot more money for young kids. Um, but another thing is maybe you can bridge that funding. So maybe do some programs with kids and older people. I know that's tough right now in COVID, but there are a lot of intergenerational programs too that have been kicking off lately. The other piece of this application is explain how your program will utilize running participation for the health and well-being of children. So they're giving you a signal that, again, the aspects of your program have to be around running. So don't just pick a grant because, oh, well, we kind of address obesity, but it's not really what the funder is looking for because you're going to waste your time and waste the funder's time. So make sure, like, you know, from reading the information that they care about running for whatever reason. They're a sneaker company, so that's what they chose. So make sure that that really is a part of your program. They also want to know about the key people involved in the delivery of the program, so responsibilities and qualifications. So that's where you're just going to talk about your staff. What are they expected to do? What are their roles? And what is their background? Like what qualifies them to do the work for this particular grant? So try not to be so general, but also add any details that make it relevant to this particular grant. And then they want to plan and budget for the use of the funds. So they want to see how what you said you were going to do and the goals of the program match up with how you're going to spend your money. So that is the first grant that is thought to me, again, for people who are serving young people who are, and they're addressing obesity. So the second grant is, and if you are here joining me for the first time, let me know who you are because I can't see who you are. So the second grant that I'm going through today, and again, these are grants that I broadcast or send out to my mailing list every Friday, and then I follow up the next Tuesday and actually walk through each of the grants to explain them and give grant tips as I go through them. So the next grant is Bae Systems, okay? So admittedly, this is like a lot of what you'll see like with corporate funding. They have like online applications. So when they have online applications, it's hidden behind a firewall. Like you have to sign up for an account in order to see the questions, which is so frustrating to me because I don't want to have to sign up for an account to see if it's a good fit for me, right? I want to know before I have to go and get another email, whatever. But that's how BAE is. I want to say Bae Systems so bad, but I know it's BAE. But that's how they are. But I do have some information about what their interests are. So I'm going to detail those for the next couple of seconds. So it can give you an indication of whether or not it's a good fit. So their company, from what I understand about what they do, is they do a lot of stuff in military and intelligence. So that's why their funding priorities look the way they do. So they provide support in two main areas. The first area is their company customers. So that includes active duty military, that includes veterans, families of the armed forces, security and intelligence personnel, first responders, and other company customers. So if you are associated or serve the people who they typically serve in their corporate capacity, then you would be probably eligible for a grant. So I will look into this and try to see if you're eligible. The second area that they're focused on is education. So that could mean early childhood, that's K through 12 education, higher education, and they called out STEM. I see a lot of STEM grants when I go through grants. So anybody who's doing education, you might want to consider also adding a STEM component because that's just huge, if that makes sense for your program. So again, this may be of interest to you if you have any kind of programming that serves or works with active duty military, veterans, families of the armed forces, security and intelligence personnel, first responders, and other company customers. And then education. So early childhood, K through 12 education, higher education, and STEM. They did not provide a lot of information about like what they're looking for or the type of programs they're looking for. So I just say go to the link that I just dropped in the comment section. Go ahead and sign up for an account and check it out. All right. And it also doesn't look like there's a deadline. So you may be able to apply at any point in time. All right. And the other thing is they only provide grants for programs that serve like the areas that they serve as a part of their company. So where they have a company presence, they provide grants. They don't just do it for grants everywhere. So that's the other thing you gotta keep in mind. Okay. All right. So tonight's gonna go really quickly, simply because the grants that I found last week did not have a lot of detail around them, which is almost better for you because the application is way easier. But if the application is way easier, that means a lot more people are applying. So it's important for you to make your mark. It's important for you to stand out when you apply to these particular funders. The last grant I'm going to talk about is from the Bnsf Railway Foundation. So I have it there up there for you guys to see, and I also dropped the link in the comment section. Okay, so this is a railway company. Apparently, they operate in 28 states, and they operate in the Midwest, the Southwest, and the Northwest regions of the U.S. So not really on the East Coast, but on the West Coast. And it says they're one of the largest freight railroads in North America. And so they're focused on communities where their employees live, work, and volunteer. So this is what they focus on as a part of their grant making. And it's a lot, so just bear with me. First is Civic Services. So that means organizations that are concerned with the environment, that are concerned with conservation, and other community issues like crime prevention, parks and recreation, diversity, and community development. That is a really huge category. That is a lot. So if you are in Northwest or, in a community that they serve, y'all might want to go ahead and check this one out because that's just one category and it's very broad. The second category is cultural. So any organizations that include performing, visual and fine arts, museums, and other related activities that offer opportunities for underserved children to experience cultural learning events or to preserve their cultural heritage. So if you know someone who does arts and culture work, that may be something for them too. The other piece is educational. So for educational institutions, they're saying both public and private, and they're talking mostly at the college level. So it just says directed toward the improvement of the quality of education. So again, very broad. The other section is health and human services, and they gave an example like the YMCA or the YWCA, but programs that address basically substance abuse treatment and prevention, spouse and child abuse, women's and children's aid, and transitional shelters. So if you do things with homelessness, child abuse, probably domestic violence, substance abuse stuff, it also includes hospitals and medical programs. That may be a fit for you. And then youth organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs, Junior Achievement. And then if you are a federally recognized tribal government. So that's probably the case because a lot of the areas that they serve are in the Northwest. So a lot of Indian tribes are kind of on that side of the country too. So if you know anybody who lives in those areas or may be interested in that, please forward that information to them because that may be of use to them. And one thing I will say is you'll find that most grants are in education. Almost everything that I find is in education. Most money is given into like the education realm based on a study that was done at the foundation. And then also social services. So a lot of money goes towards that. So just kind of a tip there if you're looking for grants. And if you're trying to see like, could I get a grant? Would I be eligible for any kind of grant? There you go. So those are the 3 opportunities today. That was really short. I'm going to end with a question around grants. And the question I'm going to answer today is, where do you find grants? How do you approach grant writing when you're starting from the very beginning or when you're a new organization? And I'm answering this question because it comes up all the time. And I actually have a blog on this on my website, and it's the most popular page on my website. So I'm going to answer it here in this video for you. So if you are looking for a grant as a new organization, I typically suggest certain companies or certain places. First, check out the Awesome Foundation and see if they have a local chapter in your area. They give $1,000 to new projects. I don't even think you have to be a 501c3. And so people get together, they pool their money, and they give $1,000 gifts to people. So that's one thing you may want to check out. You also probably want to check out the pollination project, like bees pollinate. During the COVID time, I think they narrowed their focus, but it's still good to check out. They give a lot of startup grants to people. I know a lot of people who've gotten those grants, and typically it's around $1,000. The other thing I would suggest is looking into Walmart, and this is if you have your 501c3 already, and going to each Walmart. And the strategy around Walmart is to actually talk to the managers, because if you just are going on the website and filling out the application, you're not going to be as successful as if you make yourself known, introduce yourself. Maybe you have a flyer or something that you want to give to a manager. Just use little strategies so that they remember you. And then you can be like, oh, can you tell me more about the Walmart grant? Do you have, what's your grant cycle like that? Can you tell me more about what it takes to be awarded that kind of grant? And so you begin to build a relationship so that they can fund you. Because people, think about it. If you were in their shoes, it's almost like voting. And I hate to say this, but sometimes when I go vote, I know like who I'm going to vote for president and senators and all of that. But when it starts getting down to the judges and the other people, you start to like go with people who, oh yeah, that name sounds good, or that I feel good about that person, or it sounds like I know that person, or you vote for people who you know or associated with. So it's the same kind of thing. I know that was bad. You shouldn't do that. You should know who everyone you're voting for, but I'm just being real. But it's the same thing with your managers at Walmart. If they know you, then they're more likely to accept you over someone else that they don't know who's just asking for money out the blue. And you can go to each store and get individual grants, and people get a lot of, they are really successful doing that. I would just say watch the time of the year. If you're trying to get that stuff now, you may not be as successful because first of all, the stores are getting hit this time of the year. Probably more nonprofits are reaching out to them. This is the time of year that people just generally give more. So it's just a busier time of the year. So it may make sense to introduce yourself now and then later build up to get stuff from them later. The other place you should look for when you're first starting out and you're looking for grants is your community foundation. Check in with your community foundation. Let them know who you are. Ask them a lot of questions about programming and assistance available in your area. Ask them if there are other nonprofits that you can maybe work with or collaborate and partner with that they may know about. Ask them about any companies or any families that are interested in the work that you're doing or who may be willing to talk about what they want to see. The point of this is you want to engage in conversation, but you don't want to just focus it on the money. You want to focus it on, we're doing this because we want to see this change. And you're building that's what it is. You're building relationships. You don't build relationships based on, I'm just waiting for you to give me what I'm looking for so I can move on. So always have the frame of how can we build a relationship? How can we continue a conversation? So they can think of you. Your community foundation may hear about funding available and they may recommend you. So it's always good to get in good with those people and have a good relationship with the people who work at the community foundation. Okay. So those are my tips for do grants. I will say that grants shouldn't be your only strategy in the beginning. I talk about that a lot, but I don't want to discourage people because you can get smaller grants in the beginning, but make sure you have a comprehensive funding strategy. Make sure you think about ways you can make money other than just applying for grants because it takes a long time to get the money. There's a long process that's involved and you need more unrestricted sources of money because sometimes grants come with a lot of restrictions. So it's good to have them, but it's also good to have other things to support the grant so it comes together to support your organization overall. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a question that you want me to answer next week, let me know. I'll also drop this in my grant writing group to ask them if there's a question that they want me to answer. And if you are not in my group, what is wrong with you? I'm going to drop this in here so you can join my group. It's a free Facebook group. Thanks for watching, Lynn. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. But I just dropped the link for my Facebook group. If you need help with grant writing, if you have questions, there are a bunch of people in there, a bunch of seasoned grant writers in there who can help you with any kind of questions for, how do you apply, how do you write, how do you manage, how do you organize yourself. Any question you want to ask it in the group. So y'all have a blessed night, and I will see you next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye.